Mr. Ronnie McCorrie, hello.
So this is an Ask Andy session.
An Ask Andy session.
An Ask Andy session. So I think we just had a quick chat. I think the major ones are for beginner to intermediate players.
Mm-hmm.
How to sound good.
Well, that's opening up a can of worms.
It's not much of a challenge for you there, is it?
It's not that. No, yeah, thanks for starting.
So if I give you an example, if I
Yeah.
just do a vamp, a C, A minor. I'm ready to come into a song. I mean, that sounds horrible.
Well, the
What
thing
would
is,
you do?
well, I tell you what's immediately good. You're in time, so you're already at intermediate level.
Right.
Because
Well, that's a first.
That's a first. Because you've got a good sense of pulse. The first thing I would do is just, if you want to get to a better level, is make sure you can keep a good pulse. Surely, because whatever the tempo is. So you would just, if you were just doing this and you're doing offbeats, I would just think about how can you get kind of a rhythmic pattern within that, and just utilizing that middle finger and that pinky finger to maybe get some sus chords or R9.
So you were playing root, but
But within that, I'm building in this kind of pulse from using the hammer on the second finger. So, and also, I think that thing of people, we do this all the time, don't we, you and I, where we don't, but we're talking about it, where people are just strumming up and down. And it's all strings all the time, or all notes of the chord all the time. And I just don't think that's a good idea.
volume?
Volume, well, I think you should think less of being a guitarist and more of being a rhythmical element. So if I was to say, think like a drummer, I'll be thinking bass drum and snare and hi-hat. So doom, da, 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 doom, ba. So da, bass, that's the bass drum. Here's my snare, and those 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. So I'm breaking up the number of strings I'm playing. So instead of doing everything, I'm always doing this kind of thing. And then just getting very relaxed in terms of our ups and downs.
Well, this brings in the major point, which is strumming. So you mean you've got they've got the wrist, and you've also got the elbow.
Yeah, okay. So for me, when I started out, obviously I started as a classical player, and then I picked up a pick. Right, I would be like everything from the elbow. Mm-hmm. And I don't know about you, I find that makes me. You scrape across the strings like this kind of this dragging, which we don't want. Obviously, you and I would not set this up to have mics on the guitars, so we're not going to get the sound perfect. But I'm definitely using my elbow to position my arm, and then I'm rotating so that my plectrum, or even if I'm using my fingers, I'm going down with fingernails and coming up with my thumbnail, but I'm always rotating, so I get a much smoother attack. So when I'm doing, I'm really thinking about the kind of volume of the strings, making sure everything's crystal clear. You know,
but if I'm one of those guys who does do it like this, stiff wrist and elbow.
You can hear it
How
immediately.
can you start to change my way of thinking?
Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is change the chord.
Right.
So let's use a D chord,
okay,
or a G, or we could use a G or an E, whatever we feel.
All 6 strings, I don't need to
all
worry
6
what
strings.
I'm hitting.
Okay, so let's go with, and we'll just do a standard G. We don't mind how you finger that. If I think you and I both naturally went. I think this is worthwhile pointing out. We went for third finger, second finger, fourth finger, because we'd come from a C. Mm-hmm. So we'll come back to that point in a minute.
Okay.
But let's just come up with an exercise where we're going to go low, high, and at the moment just do down strum string. But I want you to be really accurate, so it's bass note only, then the strum. Now do this. Down. And we're going to pause for a second. Here we go. Okay, so
you're limiting my action.
I'm limiting the action, but what I was going to say was I'm moving the elbow down and then doing this rotation, but my elbow is positioning the rotation of the hand above those strings. So it's, and you could just mute the strings. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2. That's good. Now, if you did that to a click or a metronome of some sort, 1, 2, 3, 4. and you're trying to make sure that the rhythm's exact, pulse is perfect, or as good as you can get at this moment in time, but that the down strum and the up strum are even volume. Okay, 1, 2, let's put a G down, 3, 4. And then I would just develop the number of strums. So I might go like this. 3, 4, 1, Coca-Cola, 2, 1, Coca-Cola, tea, coffee, 1, Coca-Cola, tea, coffee, 1, Coca-Cola, tea. Then I'll go 1, Coca-Cola, 1, Coca-Cola. Now keep the little pinky down, but do a C. Be accurate, so the 5th string, you've got to avoid that low string. Let's go back to the G. 2, 3, 4. But notice that rotation in the forearm, so...
I just noticed that when I'm looking at my hand, it's more like that, and I'm rotating, but you're a little bit...
I'm a little bit more in, but that's for me. Like what I will say is everyone is different. Okay, right. So for me, I'm just focusing on being as relaxed as possible for my wrist. But relaxation is the key, isn't it? Really, I mean, you can get far too tight. But also, it is worth saying we're talking about the engine at the moment, aren't we? The thing that's keeping everything moving forward. We're going to do one little exercise, and then I think you were going to ask something. But we also want to discuss the fretting hand. That's a real issue for a lot of people.
Yeah, also when you get on the C, how do you avoid the low E?
Well, this is the thing for me. It's practice more than anything, isn't it? So, maybe that's why I think it's good to do it without a chord to begin with.
Well, you've always mentioned to me 5 minutes of practice. What can you do in 5 minutes of practice? So this is the exercise you're proposing.
This is the exercise, but I mean, we're just making up an exercise, aren't you? I mean, aren't we? Sorry, we're not saying, hey, here's a written exercise and you must do this. We're just like, what is the thing you personally struggle with? And then come up with an exercise. Like we're just saying, right, we're trying to be really accurate because we could change it to doing like. So that's just Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola, Coca. Low, low, high, high, low, low, high. But that's still better than this. And this is the thing that most people kind of go wrong in. There's no feel. You've got to get feel. So
it's getting yourself into that frame of mind. Okay, you're low and then high, but you've got to get yourself counting at the beginning.
You've got to. It's all about feel for me. It's like, where's the pulse? What's the tempo? But what's the feel of the song? So if I found my love by the guesswork wall, Dirty Old Town has got what? It's not. So I'm taking the same exercise where essentially all I'm doing is low strings, high strings, trying to be accurate. I'm starting off with just one bass note, one strum, bass note, strum, bass note, 2 strums.
Right.
Bass note,
so let's
4
go
strums.
back to the original question, vamping. So if I said you're going to vamp on a G,
on a G,
but moving to an A minor 7 down below, so a sus4 sort of thing. So
but that immediately sounds better, doesn't it? Because you're not strumming all the strings.
No.
So I think that. So if you could then say, okay, what's the reason to practice a scale? If you could, instead of saying the whole scale, but just say the first 5 notes, the first 5 diatonic notes, which we just mean in the key, right? And you keep the shape down, but you do it using these fingers, right? So you get change chord, back. So now you've got a groove. Now you know you can use any of those notes. And you can put little licks in. Little fills. Mm-hmm. But when people do it, they tend to get something and they go, I'm going to do it all the time. And that's not necessary.
Just sparingly.
Sparingly, like if I had like a 4-bar sequence, I would usually think, okay, if I've got 2 chords and it's 1 bar per chord, I'll put the lick on the 4th bar going back to the 1st bar. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then, because I think everything that you're doing is building up to an arrangement of what a song should be, but that's quite simple.
Yeah.
You know, so you're starting off in first position. You're thinking, well, how can I now turn an exercise into something melodic? So my next thought would be, what are the most important chords within the key of G?
You're just going to know what are the diatonic chords in
the
key of G?
diatonic chords. So if you learn your cycle of keys, and you know how many sharps there are, and we just say, well, there's 1 sharp in the key of G, then I'm going G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. You know, and you then create an exercise that your exercise this week is, I'm working in this key signature, I'm staying in first position, I'm going to get good with my rhythm hand, and I'm just going to go G, A minor, B minor, C, D, E minor. We're going to do a half diminished there, back to G. Okay, so the F sharp, minor, 7 flat 5, and then G. But like, I would be like, how can I make an exercise out there? So my first thing would be chord 1 to chord 2, chord 1 to chord 3, chord 1 to chord 4, chord 1 to chord 5, chord 1 to chord 6.
Should we just try that then?
Sure.
Actually, so always going back to the tonic.
You're always going back to the tonic, but this is an exexercise, of course, so it's not musical. But we're now saying...
But it's the strumming as well.
It's the strumming. So let's keep the strumming really 1, 3, A minor. Back to G. But notice, guys, that we're doing bass note chord, B minor. See, that feels like a song to me already. G. C.
You're going to do that.
Back to G. D.
Trying desperately not to do alternating bass.
Yeah, I'm trying, but I am. E minor. Back to G. Let's do the F sharp, diminished. Back to G. But to me, that even felt like a song.
So you're exercising there. You're getting the strumming right, and that's a bit awkward because you're making the root on different root strings, on different bass strings, going through all your diatonic chords, and then you wanted to mix in your G major scale.
Yes.
With that.
Oh, so how would you do that then?
Yeah.
Okay, so now, again, everything here is just an exercise that you're making up on the spot, you know. So I'd be like G, A minor. But remember, the scale we're doing, essentially we're going through the modes then, aren't we?
We're starting the scale of the note of the chord.
Exactly. So you're kind of thinking in modes, aren't you? But let's stay away from modes for a second. No. Just think you're playing the scale, the diatonic scale, the G major scale, but starting it each time from the root note of the chord you're playing.
So starting with G, you're starting with a G note.
Yeah, so I'm going...
A.
You could just... Yeah.
Starting with A. B.
Yeah. And then through those. So we could do that as an exercise. We could just go, I would just do single bass note, single strum scale. So it'd be 1, 2. And then you might go straight on. But if you struggle to move between the chords, just do each chord and then resolve the chord.
Okay.
So you're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, and then you go back.
You know, and then you could go back just if you're struggling.
Okay, right.
Then so you're focusing on each chord. And then A minor. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, and then B minor. 3.
Okay.
You see, so we'll go through. We'll do it in time, right? But we'll always resolve it. So you'll have a 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. So bass, strum, scale. 1.
I was going to A minor.
Yeah, and then now, okay, A minor. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. Just so they can hear it. B minor. 1, 2.
No. Now to go back to that. So in terms of fingering from the B minor,
I would go 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4. Because you don't want to play the C sharp because we're trying to use the scale, the key of G.
Yeah.
So you added a C sharp again.
Yeah.
But you want to avoid the C sharp.
Because I immediately went back to the open G major scale then.
You could. So that would be. But you want to avoid the C sharp, whatever you do. There you go. Yeah, and then that's it, and then your C, and you would go through.
See, that's immediately told me that just learning your open position or first position G major scale isn't sufficient to do it cleanly, or is it?
Well,
or just stick with it for now. Just with the open diatonic chords.
I think you should know the scale in multiple positions. So I would know, you know, just so you know the notes. I mean, there's a you know, I mean, we're going on quite a lot on this one thing, so we'll have to stop in a second. But I think the takeaway for me would be, just as a starting exercise, was, well, how can you practice your rhythm or get that accurate? So just start with a chord and go for an exercise that's working on this being relaxed.
You see, that's quite good because, I mean, you know, I know that.
Yeah.
But I didn't use it then. I also, because I was playing here, I went straight back to this. What is it?
Yeah, 1, 2. But then is that wrong? I would say no, because the thing is,
I'm not
what
making
sound?
Use of something I know.
Yes, but also, what sound do you want? So sometimes you want to do something that has open strings wherever possible. So maybe so you could practice it both ways.
Right.
I think the one thing that we all get into a rut is we play kind of what we know, and maybe we want to open that up. So I would say, work out what you're struggling with, and just come up with exercises that are built around what you're struggling with. You don't need a teacher or a book to tell you what to necessarily practice. You need to come up with something that's going to work for you, you know.
So what about if we do something a little bit more rhythmical?
Okay.
Same, it's just G and A minor for now,
yeah.
And then we'll see if we take it through to all the diet.
So do you want to stay in first position, or would you like to kind of delve deeper? Because I think we could delve deeper with
let's go up a level then. Yeah, delve slightly.
Okay,
deeper.
So let's imagine we're gonna put this in another little video. We're gonna take a pause and we'll start the next video.